Welcome to a new episode of the Perspective Shift podcast. When we decide that we want to change something in our lives and develop and grow, we need to change certain behaviors and thoughts and maybe some core beliefs that we have since our childhood that are holding us back in some way. And in order to implement any kind of change, it is really important to be more open minded because when we are closed minded, we simply shut ourselves off from any new ideas and new views on the world and other people. And all of that makes change really impossible if you don't have an open mind or an open ear to new things. So let me start by asking you, how would you define open mindedness and just generally what is being open minded means to you?
I would definitely define open mindedness in the realm of experiencing life. In the sense, it's a bit hard to give open mindedness a specific definition because I feel like that itself would be a little bit ironic because you're kind of being rigid about the thing that's supposed to make you open minded. But nevertheless, I connect or I relate open mindedness to experiencing life in the sense of how open are you to new experiences? How open are you to new emotions? How open are you to trying new things, maybe changing something in you, just life overall? And open-minded people, if we're going to go in that direction a little bit, they're usually the people that are fine with trying new things. It's not that they're not afraid, but it's regardless of the fear that they're willing to try new things and experience life, sometimes even for just what it is.
Yeah, I actually agree with you that open mindedness is hard to define. I think you can see it in two ways. It is something that is subjective to you because some people are more open minded in certain areas in their lives where they're really closed minded in other areas. Like you can be really open minded about traveling to new places and trying new food, but you could be really closed minded about the music that you listen to, you know? But I think there is also the objective definition that just generally being open minded means willingness to try new things, to accept, to understand and accept that everything you hold to be true is not fixed. It's not everything, like you can have opinions about certain things and you would be someone who is closed minded, for example, if you think that your opinions or the things you agree on are just the truth and they can't be changed. And you are a little bit more open minded if you understand that even the opinion that you have about something isn't necessarily the ultimate truth, that maybe someday you will read something or listen to somebody that will change your opinion on that thing. So that connects it to my definition of open mindedness. And I think this is something a little bit more objective, but I still think that we have inner conflicts, we have contradictions. We can say that we are open minded people, but I am sure that whether you or I or other people, we know that even if they are open minded, there will be certain areas, if you talk to them about, they will be a little bit more closed minded, and that's very normal. And I don't think you can be open minded all the time.
I prefer the term rigid to be honest, instead of open-mindedness.
Okay.
Sorry, instead of closed-mindedness. The reason for that is because closed-minded would mean that you're kind of closed off and you're kind of not letting anything new in. But like you could differentiate between being closed-minded and being rigid about something. Because I feel like you can look at it a little bit more objectively. Closed-minded is literally what I just said, which is like your brain is like closed off from everything else and you're not letting anything new in. But being rigid is like, okay, no, this is my opinion. This is what I happen to believe in. You have a different opinion. Your opinion could be true, but I'm still going to stick to my opinion. Not in the sense of like, I stand by what I say, but in the sense of like, this is my opinion and this is the only thing I'm going to believe in and everything else is just exists out there. That's why I didn't want to go into a specific term or definition of open-minded and closed-minded because it's a big spectrum with a lot of different things related to what open-minded could be and what closed-mindedness could be. And I feel like the more that you try to define it, the more the term itself gets kind of bigger and wider.
Yeah, it loses its meaning in a way.
It's not really that it loses, but it's just like if you try to define open-mindedness from this perspective, then you're sort of being rigid about it from this perspective.
Sure.
But there's a different perspective that you're not going to be able to cover that much. And that's why it's hard. Like for me personally, like what I said, I don't try to define what open-minded means. I try to relay open-minded to specific areas of my life.
Sure.
And from there on, I can figure out like, okay, am I being open-minded about this? Or am I being rigid? Am I being closed-minded about this? Yeah. And that's how I try to deal with the whole thing.
Okay, there's different things to talk about here. Like even when I try to define open-mindedness for me, I still get other ideas about what open-mindedness could mean. So this actually shows me more that defining it is really difficult and we don't really have to define it. But I think you can give the general definition that it's just openness to new things, maybe. And I think that's the difference between rigidity and being closed-minded. Rigidity is something that you're doing
maybe as a defense mechanism.
It's a defense mechanism, and it's generally a negative thing in most cases if you're being rigid about something. But open-mindedness in itself, you can see it as a skill as well. Maybe you can, and it's a skill that maybe you can turn on and off. You can consciously decide, okay, this area, I am not looking to new ideas right now. I'm just content with what I know and what I have, and I'm just gonna be closed-minded in this area for a while because, like, I'm not looking to learn new things in the moment. I'm just focusing on something else. And then, like, I noticed that in my own life where I'm like, I know certain things about history and I'm fine with what I know, and I'm not looking to learn new things right now. So even if, let's say, I saw a documentary on the internet, then I'm just going to decide, I don't want to know more about this right now because I am focusing more on, let's say, psychology or some other thing. And then at some point I go back to that and I'm like, okay, now I want to learn more, I want to listen more. And even when people talk about that topic, I become even more open-minded. Oh, now I want to listen to that, even though in the past I didn't want to.
Just to interrupt a little bit there. I don't know if there's something that I'm misunderstanding, but I wouldn't call this being closed-minded or rigid at all. Like the scenario that you were just talking about, I would relate it to simply like the stage you are in life or the stage where you're at with that specific subject area of your life, whatever you want to call it. It's not that you're not being open-minded. It's just that I'm content with this. I'm going to focus on something else. So I don't really can relate that to open-mindedness.
Maybe it's a wrong term here, but like I think what I'm trying to say in general is that open-mindedness is like a skill, and
it's a skill that
you can choose. You can choose to be open-minded.
Exactly. It's. I don't know if you can choose again. I'm really going into the philosophy here. I'm kind of working as like the secondary voice of what you're saying and always commenting on it. But I'm just gonna do this one more time, and then I'm gonna try to keep it down a little bit. I don't think it's something that you can choose because sometimes you're being closed-minded or rigid as a defense mechanism without being aware that you're using this as a defense mechanism. So I wouldn't really call it that it's a skill that you can choose when to turn on and off. I would say maybe it's a skill that you could cultivate so you're more comfortable with unfamiliar stuff and you're more open to trying new things. It's just like sort of like a mindset that you can work on.
It's a mindset, sure.
But I don't know if you can turn it on and off when you want. I would relate it to something.
This is where I don't fully agree because I notice in certain times when I'm like, I don't have enough energy or I'm feeling low.
Yeah, but what about the times that you don't notice? You know, like I'm not talking about when you can turn it on and off because I know that you could be open-minded about something and then closed-minded about something else. But I'm talking about the cases or the scenarios in which you are being closed-minded or rigid, but you're not aware of you being that because it's a defense mechanism or escapism from your brain.
That's the thing. When these type of scenarios happen, I'm usually aware that okay, let's say someone is telling me something that I need to hear. And it is about the new ideas that I should implement and about certain beliefs that maybe are not benefiting me in my life. If I'm in a bad mood, if I don't want to listen to this person, they would be talking all day and I'm just shutting my brain off and it's just words that are going through, but I'm not hearing anything. You know what I mean? So in such a scenario, I would say that I was closed-minded, but I was also conscious of it. It was just my emotional state and how much energy am I. It's really about the day itself and the stage that I am in. But sure, there are cases where I'm like not aware of it, and then after the scenario happens, I would reflect and say, "Oh, I was really closed-minded."
Exactly. I'm talking about when you are in the midst of it.
Yeah, but I think it really depends. There are times where you will be, if you're self-aware, you can be more conscious of it, but you are still being in that state. But I think this really all connects to how our ego interferes with our state, and how being closed-minded is really related to our identity and our ego in general, that it blocks us from doing new things or trying new things or just trying to change anything about us.
The ego, just like everything else in our human nature, plays a role in determining what we want to do, what we're going to do, how and why, and of course, in the first place, whether we're going to do it or not. Your ego could be telling you, for example, that you are this person and you like these stuff and you dislike these things, and then just because if you, and of course, you can relate and connect your ego to a lot of many other things in your life, and then based on that, you could be like for example, I'm totally against I'm totally against this type of music genre, and whatever the reason, it's ego. And then just based on that, you would be like not willing to even try to listen to this kind of music. You would be completely shut off from it. And if you decide that, okay, wait, I'm going to give it a try, your ego is going to be hurt in the way where like that image that your ego had built of you is going to be a bit shattered, and then there's going to be a little bit of confusion. They're like, oh wait, hold up, I thought that we said that we would never do this, or we would never listen to this. Now suddenly we're trying, even if we're just trying it. And the problem is,
you cringe on the idea of,
you cringe of yourself. And then if you want to go if you want to go a little bit deeper into it, even if you like them, even if you end up liking the music genre that you actually hate, your ego is not going to let you admit that you like it. Your ego is going to be like, because the whole self-image, that whole ego that you build around that is just going to be not only just shattered, it's just going to be completely vanished. And then you're going to have all those sort of defense mechanism or like survivabilities and whatever we've got inside of us that's going to be like, I don't like this type
exactly.
Regardless of how you actually genuinely feel about it.
Exactly. But this is what I mean, where like, sure, you in that moment you became, for example, more open-minded and you started to listen to this music, but you not admitting it to other people who know you well,
even to yourself, even to yourself before other people.
That's also part of being closed-minded in a way, and this is related to the ego. And this is a scenario where you are more conscious of it. You know that you like this music, you're still denying it in front of others. This is being closed-minded as well.
Not even like I'm even completely forgetting that saying that you dislike it in front of others. Yeah. I'm talking about just you and yourself.
Yeah.
Because you could be even lying to yourself, and then it's like the old saying that goes like, if you wear a mask for too long, you're gonna end up forgetting who you are beneath it. And then if you keep on lying to yourself that, okay, I don't like this music, even if you like it, the day is gonna come where you're gonna believe that lie that you hate this music.
Yeah.
And then it's just a loop that's a never ending one until you decide to get out of the loop.
And this is why I like to connect it. I like to connect open-mindedness to change, because let's say the same example with music. Let's say you were 12 years old, you saw on the internet someone saying this type of music is the best music and you shouldn't listen to anything else. You adapt that belief and you grow up, you follow that belief more and more, and it becomes your core belief. So now you just live with that idea. I'm just going to listen to this music. Anything anybody else says about any other type of music, I'm not gonna listen to them. I'm not gonna listen to their music. I'm just gonna shut everything off. And then you stumble on that type of music that you shouldn't listen to, for example, and you notice that you like it, but your core belief is telling you, no, you shouldn't listen to this music. You don't like it. This is where the denial and when you say, even you reject the idea, even with yourself.
Yeah.
So it's because of that core belief. But when you become more open-minded, that these core beliefs can be changed.
You have to also be a little bit conscious about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-awareness, being conscious, they come first. But once you have the self-awareness, if you're not open-minded about like changing these type of core beliefs or thoughts that you have, then you're gonna keep following them forever. It's not gonna change. You're gonna be in the same mindset that you are in, and your personality is not gonna develop as much. So this is why I like to connect it to change in general. That I think open-mindedness is really important when you want to implement changes in your life. And yeah, it is a skill, just like empathy,
Just like
where
everything
you
else.
can develop. And even in later examples, other things that happen in your life, when once you've already been through that 2 times, 3 times, and then you notice the next time where uh, a strong opinion that conflicts your opinion comes, you will take it more easily. You will be more accepting of it and approach it more, and you will be more honest about it with yourself and with other people. So it really is kind of a skill, and it's about confronting your ego, I guess. Like we've talked a lot about the ego, how it holds you back.
Ego is just part of the equation after all. Being open-minded, I feel like for you, in order to become open-minded, you can look at yourself like an onion, all right? And you've got many layers. And those layers are like, you've got ego, you've got, I don't know, past experience, self-image, self-reflection, and so on and so on and so on. And then you've got and layer the onion until you can get to how you can be open-minded. It just like if you look at it like this, as a kid, I don't think you can find a child that's closed-minded.
Nope.
But that's not open-minded.
It's not possible.
Exactly, because like we're born, we're excited about everything. We want to try
explore.
this.
We want to explore.
Exactly, but of course, as time goes on, you become an adult. You have responsibilities. You've got stress. You've got this and this, and then you try to kind of limit some stuff in your life so you have it a little bit more under control. And I feel like it takes time, effort, and a lot of unlayering so you can get back to that child state, if you want to call it that, where you're open-minded and you're actually willing to explore new things, new possibilities, new mindsets, and so on and so on and so on. So I'll take an example of my life, for example, that I've had for very long, which was I had the average. If somebody walked up to me in the past and asked me what I wanted for my future or for my life, happiness would definitely be part of that answer. And I've had that for many years. The funny thing about it, as a child, I never talked about happiness. Just as I grew up and I started going through life and the struggles, you start thinking more and more about it, and then you start putting it as a goal that you're gonna attain at some point. And for many years, I was in denial of everyone who told me that happiness is not a goal. Happiness is something that you get right now. And I had to come to realize that myself, that you can't put happiness as a goal. Because, for starters, happiness is not really sustainable. And even if it was sustainable, we're going to say that, okay, you're happy and you can sustain a happy state. And that brings up the question, at some point, you're going to be asking yourself, am I actually happy? Because all what you feel is the same emotion.
You're gonna look for something else.
Exactly. In relation to that is then you're not really happy. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're happy all the time, then you're not actually happy. I had to realize that happiness isn't really sustainable. And even if it was, then the question would be, what is happiness in the first place? And then I had to go around and try to realize that you can be happy in the moment, or like life goes up and down. And even if you're happy, I had to be really open-minded to do a lot of unlearning to accept the fact that there's going to be struggle in life. It doesn't matter how happy you are. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter what you are. You're going to struggle. And instead of focusing on happiness and being happy all the time, maybe just try to be a little bit more resilient and be able to handle stress in life better than you've ever done before. And then I'm bringing up this example because for me, it was the hardest switch that I had to go.
The most difficult.
That took a lot of unlayering, a lot of willingness to understand people, a lot of defensive mechanisms that I had to get rid of, and a lot of acceptance for what life is, and a great deal of trying to wake myself up from the delusion that I was putting myself into constantly and regularly.
Uh, yeah, that's actually a pretty good one. And when it comes to my life, like I could think about so many things, but like at the top of my head, something that have substantially changed my life since I changed my opinion on the matter is just the fact that plans are and structures are pretty important in your life. So I am naturally someone who is a little bit chaotic and not really, I don't really like to make plans. And I've always been against that idea because I'm just a chaotic person. So I work perfectly with chaos and I don't need plans and structures whatsoever. And I've been keeping that mindset for years and years, even though I keep hearing the same advices that you need some structure in your life. It will give you more time. It will give you more clarity, and your head will be, your thoughts will be more stable and everything. But I've always been in denial with that until I started with self improvement basically, and started to build new habits, like small habits like reading, taking cold showers, going to the gym, all the things that are gonna give your life some structure. And I tried to do that, everything in the morning. And then I noticed with time how that started to change my life and started to change. I just became much more productive and healthy than I used to. And then I realized that it all started when I became more open minded about the idea of trying to put some structure in the first place, which is a morning routine, which was something that I didn't even know it existed. I would wake up anytime I want, wake up, just go on my phone, watch some movie. There was no this kind of structure in my life that now I can't imagine my life without, which is like waking up, going in the sun, going to the shower, doing all of these small things that you need to do in the morning. And now I notice it even more with smaller things when I try to plan what I want to do in the next day. Like I should go to the doctor at this time, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do this. And all of that actually gave me more clarity and everything. And then when I look back, I just cringe at the thought that why did I think that? Sure, I can be a little bit chaotic, but it doesn't mean you can't put some structure in your life. So being more open minded about that actually kind of changed everything when it come to my, let's say, self improvement journey.
Your example actually connects really well to what I still wanted to talk about, which was being open minded doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to do or you have to adapt what you decide to do. It's being open minded, being willing to try it out.
Willing to try, yeah.
Exactly. Just like you said, that you were willing to give it a shot about having a bit more structure in your life. And after you tried it, you found out, for example, that, okay, this actually works out for me. I like it. It's helping me out and making a lot of things easier in my life. So you decided to adapt that as a lifestyle part of you, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like the trying, which is the first step, of course, is the hardest thing, because like people gotta admit that, okay,
I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what I'm doing doesn't really work.
Exactly.
Maybe I've got to try something else. And then when they try something else, and if you like it, you can stick with it. If not, then you can, like, I can't, you probably know this, the amount of different stuff that I tried, the amount of different approaches that I tried to my life, to getting my life a little bit in order. I probably tried like different things. And it was, I don't know, I would find a system, a strategy, whatever you want to call it. I would try it out for some time. And then I'd realize, like, that's really not working out for me. Either it's being a little bit too much, it's being this or this, or I have a misconception about it. And then I'll just like drop it, find something else, try it. Until I found the system that I'm using right now in my life, which is when I tried it, it stuck the longest with me. And I realized that it's kind of working out. You have this feeling of like my life's getting better. You know, I'm noticing new things, I'm learning new things. It's making things easier for me. And I can see improvement in a lot of different areas in my life. And that's when you know that That's something that I tried. Is something that you might want to adapt in your life.
Yeah, I think this might be. I'm not sure if it's a misconception, but I feel like maybe some people when they hear, "Oh, I should become more open-minded," it means you have to go all in trying the new
Oh
things.
yeah,
And this is something that I used to believe as well, even with when it comes to the structure and everything. But what I realize is that being open-minded, just giving more attention to these new ideas and thought, acknowledging that they exist, acknowledging that there could be something that will offer you something, like just putting more thoughts on that instead of turning inwardly and focusing on the things that you've always did and always followed all of your life. So putting your attention more externally to what other people have to say, what they did, and what you're just seeing in this world, and realizing that maybe there's something you can try.
if you want to have like a more fun perspective about it, you can look at open mind. You can look about being open minded as an adventure. You know what I mean?
You don't know what you're expecting.
Exactly.
You don't know what's waiting for you.
You're going on a hike. You're going on a small adventure, and then you're gonna see what happens there.
Exactly.
You don't have a plan, and then kind of has open mind. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go on this little adventure to try this small thing in my life, or try this path for some time.
You let go of you let go of yourself, and you just embrace this new experience or whatever.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like you're going on a hike. Like you're not on a hike where you're thinking, well, you're just on the hike. You're just doing the hike. You're just going for that new adventure, for that new try, and then it's just like small adventure where you can just go like, okay, I'm gonna try this path, and I'm just gonna be a little bit more adventurous about it.
But see, that's where I'm like, this isn't something that you necessarily have to do all the time, and maybe that's why I said the term that you can turn it on and off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
now
now-
it kind of makes more sense why I said that. It's like
Now I'm connecting the dots to
Yeah.
what you meant by
Like-
that.
like- there will be times where you really don't want any new experience. You don't want to learn anything new. You have something to deal with. You want to deal with it internally, and that's where you turn it a little bit more off so that you can focus on these things that you're dealing with. Yeah, so that's why I like to see it as a switch. It's a skill that you develop, you improve at, but it's also a switch that you can decide to be more open-minded in the moment. It's
sure.
it's really a conscious choice that only happens when you are self-aware and that you're aware of what you're doing and what's happening around you. So yeah. Okay, so I have a question. I just have one more question, which is like, how does one start in the first place to become more open-minded? If someone, they've been rigid for a long time, and they've been living the same lifestyle and doing the same things for long years, and then they start to learn about being open-minded and what open-mindedness means. How can you start to be a little bit more open-minded? Like,
I genuinely can't give you an answer to that question. But I happen to believe that if you are listening to something like this, where people are talking about open mindedness or we're reading about it,
that's already
Then-
being open-minded.
then you are already taking the first step toward that. Like that,
Kinda makes
you,
sense.
you know what I mean? Because I feel like being open minded is not something that you can go to somebody and be like, because if someone is rigid or closed minded about an opinion that they have, or about open mindedness overall, you can go to them and start trying to convince them that they have to be open minded, that open mindedness is going to benefit them. I feel like it's just something that you come across in life, whether now or later, and you just realize that you're just being closed minded about stuff or concepts that are man made, that are made by you and by your own brain. And then that's when you start thinking about open mindedness. And like I said, once you take that step where like you're thinking about it, then you kind of are already on the path toward trying to be more open minded.
I think
Besides, if you kind of force open mindedness, then that question also comes up: are you actually open minded, or are you forcefully trying to be open minded?
so the same question, if I ask it to myself, I would say that the first thing you can do is maybe just try to follow, let's say, someone on media or any kind of forum or something on the internet where it really contradicts the thing that you believe in, whatever it is. And you just try to listen. You don't have to. You don't have to give all your attention to that person or that idea, but just try to listen to it and see what happens. What thoughts are you gonna get? What emotions are you gonna feel? Are you gonna get angry? Are you gonna get annoyed because this is something that really contradicts what you believe in? But just try to listen. So
It's like exposure
exposure, exactly.
exposure therapy.
And maybe the first time you do that, the second time you're just gonna be
It's gonna be
close
weird.
your ears and you're like
It's gonna be
it's
weird.
gonna be weird, and you're gonna shut off whatever you're trying to do and go back to the confirmation bias activities, in a way, that the things that will confirm the things that you believe in. And yeah, just try to listen to people or follow people who really believe in things and have completely different opinions than yours, and see what happens. I think that's a pretty good thing to start with when you're trying to change.
That kind of puts people on the spot, to be honest.
Exactly, yeah.
And then that might lead up to them questioning it at some point, and then
And it's something that it's kind of it's easy.
it's easily accessible.
It's not easy to do, but it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
I guess, because it's still hard to do if you're like really being rigid. You're really just seeking the things that you already know. Then it's going to be really difficult to convince you to listen to anything that goes against what you hold to be true.
I would say I'll probably advise people not to overthink it a lot, because I feel like it's something that people get to at some point. And like I mentioned before, if that's at least my own belief, that if you are already thinking about being open-minded or trying new things, then you are already on that path and you're taking the first steps. Just try not to overcomplicate it, and try to keep a little bit of an open mind to things, a little bit of willingness to try, whether you're against it or not. Remember that after you try the thing, if you don't like it, you can always go back to the way or what you were doing before you tried the thing. So the worst case scenario is literally the life that you have right now, and
you basically have nothing to lose.
Better scenario is like not necessarily the better, but the other scenario would be that you find something new that you like or enjoy.
Basically, you have nothing to lose. Like, the worst thing that could happen is that you're gonna try that new thing and you're gonna realize that you don't want that thing.
Exactly, and then you go back to how you were.
Scratch it off the list.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. You can like and subscribe if you enjoy the show, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.